Hi, it's Rachel. I've been talking so much about this love of God and sharing with you how to connect to that by making choices in your life to foster that connection, to make room for your soul to be molded by the very hand of God in a very personal way, that you can be a conduit for that love of God. Because when you're operating in His love, you're operating in His righteousness, in His purity, in His wisdom, and there in His compassion and all these things, and there is nothing greater. And this divine love coming in, that's what it means for Christ to be in you. Okay, when we say Christ is in you, it means that that divine love is in you. It's the divine love which contains the wisdom and the honor and all these other things that was in Jesus. Okay, so He was Jesus Christ because He was the soul of Jesus that was without sin, without error. That's why He was so pure, that had this divine love. And that's the thing that we're receiving. That's the Christ in us. It is this divine love. So this preparation of our soul, this soul development, the renewal, becoming a new creation, in the sense having like a new birth, because you are so different. When you spend this time with God, you are so different than how you used to be. And that's a process, like you see it over time. So as I look at where I am today compared to where I was, 10 years ago, I don't even recognize myself. It's that different. And it continues to grow. And I think it always will grow. But that's what that means. And that's why in this soul that God develops, it's a soul that has your own personality, obviously, your own reflection, but it's in the beauty and the nature and the likeness of Christ, because that's what's flowing through you, is that divine love. And one very important thing too in developing this and being this, having this love within you, is that you have to look at your will, okay? Because ultimately our free will was given to us so that we would choose to love, because love is always voluntary. So for us to be creations that could love God and love others, we had to have a voluntary part of our makeup. That's what we call our free will, and its whole purpose is so that we would choose to love. So what governs your will are your desires, okay? But it can also be your fears, guilt, other things, okay? So the question is what is influencing your will? Which also you can break down to say, what is influencing your desires? Are you doing things out of fear? Are you doing things out of lack? Are you doing things out of judging and judgment and condemnation? Or are you motivated by love? Because ultimately everything that we want to do, we want it to be coming from the motive of love, because that's what it means for Christ to be in you, is that divine love is directing everything about you. And so that everything is being filled with that. But that's what that communion and that time that you spend, that's what's happening. That's what's being created in the process. That's why it's a very simple thing that we do. Take time to meet with God each day. But it is extremely, extremely powerful. And it's because we're communing with God Himself and that ability for Him to recreate us. And it's interesting because there is a transformation. So when you have fear or lies governing you, okay, that creates your perceptions, how you act, how you respond, how you think, okay, and it creates chaos. Because everything is tearing against each other, okay? But when you start moving into the wisdom of God and this counsel of God and this love of God, everything starts to come into harmony in your thoughts, in your soul, and what that creates is something absolutely beautiful. You know, it's very interesting because when you study different particles and molecules, you see that, for example, in water, the impact of music on water, words on water, it shapes the water molecules differently. It is and there's been studies done on this, and it's so fascinating. So you can have, when it's a disharmonious and negative and chaotic kind of energy that's going toward that water, which we're mostly water, the molecules are a mess. They're all over the place. But when water is given just beautiful music and beautiful words, the molecules start taking on this shape of these just beautiful, these beautiful shapes that look like these incredible snowflakes. And this is exactly what's happening in us, okay? When we first come to God, it's like everything is in disarray, okay? It's chaotic. It is, our thoughts are all over the place. They're full of fear and lies and false images of God and all these things. But as you spend this time, what happens is He reshapes, cleans out, purges, renews, does all these amazing things within you so that you start taking on this beautiful harmony, and within you is this amazing peace that starts to form, that gives you a rest in your life. And when you start acting in your life, because life comes from inward out. Okay, so if inward we're chaotic, our life is going to be chaotic. If inward we have that peace and that harmony, which is built upon very real principles and truths of God, some of which I've shared with you, then it creates this amazing peace and harmony in our life. So everything grows from within out. That's why this focus on the soul development is so important for our lives, not for eternity and for here. Okay, it starts to make the impact here in our life. And that's how you know when you're walking in truth, is that your life starts to become beautiful and create beautiful things, and relationships that are healing, and the suffering and the pain and the fears start to leave as that harmony and that peace and that love starts to take over. But that whole understanding about how water, which we mostly are, is impacted by the spiritual energy, in a sense, that's being pushed at it, whether it's negative and causing, it's lies and fears and it's causing chaos, or whether it's truth and love that's creating harmony and peace. And that's why another reason it is so important to take this time to connect, is because you're being shaped into that likeness of Christ, the divine love of God, and that's what you start to reflect outwardly. It's a beautiful transformation, and it's all by the work of God, because He does in our soul what we can't do for ourselves. Okay, we need someone higher and smarter and beyond ourselves to remold us. Okay, it's very hard when you're in the mess to remold your own mess. If you've ever tried that, you know what I mean. But when you start coming in that connection with God and start seeking that higher love and that higher wisdom, then that starts reshaping you at a very, very, very deep level that affects everything in your life.